Personnel Committee meeting to order. Roll call. Cool here.
Weird here.
Husma here.
Approval of the meeting minutes from May 15th and June 5th.
Where we move to approve both May 15 and June 5th meeting minutes.
Husma will second.
Motion by Wired, seconded by Haslak to approve the meeting minutes from the 15th and the 5th. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Unopposed, motion carried. Public comments for anything not in the agenda? Seeing none. New business, May 2025 financial statements, payroll, general disbursements, and the clerk treasurer's reports. We can take those all as one, unless there's questions. I'll take a motion for that.
Where we move to approve the May 2025 financial statements, payroll, general disbursements, clerk treasurer report on file.
Husma will second.
Motion by Wired, second by Haslak for the financial statements. The council, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. 4B, new business, health insurance opt-out. You guys updated
Well,
information.
these were the things that we also wanted. It doesn't really, it just gives you an idea, because we were talking about the possibility of doing a deductible. So those are the sheets, so
Oh.
it shows you what our current plan is. So that doesn't change what she wrote up here. It's just giving you a little bit more information as far as if we were to look at a deductible, which would be on the next two pages, whether it's 500, single, 1,000 family, 16 and 32, and then what that math would look like. So it's your meeting, I just wanted to hand that out, because she
Yep.
printed it for us, so you go in whatever order you wish.
Okay, I think this all came about because we were looking at ways, as we all know from Eller's report, we're gonna be limited on the levy amount that we're gonna be able to move forward with. And I would assume wages will be talked about in budget that's gonna be coming up. And we're negotiating through a union contract that hasn't been finalized yet, so there's a lot of unknowns. So we're looking at different ways that we can come up with more revenue to help out in running the city. So insurance was one of those things that we identified, sort of talked about last meeting. As you can see in the packet, there was comparisons, I think, did that get included with other municipalities?
Yes.
So you can see it's sort of all over the board.
These are only a handful of what people responded to requests, so
Yep.
there's obviously many more.
I would say the majority of them cap them at a specific dollar amount.
So it's not a fluctuating number.
It's not a fluctuating number. That's an issue, probably especially with how insurance plans in the past few years have adjusted. I think we went from, what was the percentage the year before last? It was like, our portion was in the 60s, right? Upper 60s that the city paid. And then last year went up to 88%.
It's always
It's always
88,
been 80.
Oh, it's always been
always
88,
88%. I
but-
think it went from 19 employer shared to 23.
Yeah,
Now, the problem is that last year it fell on the employer side. So then therefore that went up. And so the employee premium went down, so they benefited from that. The problem, we do not get the whole guidelines and all the rates until the end of September. And it's based on the average of the lowest tier one. Well, last year there was one tier one. In prior years, there's a couple. It's really hard to determine. And so is an average of 11% increase. in the premiums.
Mhm.
I don't know what side that's going to be on though. I don't know, that's the unknowns, that's very difficult. Because I was surprised last year that it came on the city side, because that's not what, we thought was gonna happen.
Right.
I thought it would be about the same, but, so that's where we just don't know. It could be lower for the employer next year.
I still absolutely fail to understand how that works.
Her and I were just going through this again too, so part of the reason, I had her print off a few more sheets, we couldn't find 23. It's just, if
I'll
you,
get
yeah,
into it,
it,
but-
seriously, just look at where it says Jefferson on our current plan, the one that I just kinda handed out. So for 2025, it says the tier one, so for whatever reason, they picked the tier one. I thought in my head, we picked the lowest one, and it was
They picked
88%.
They picked the state.
Right, I
They
didn't,
don't,
didn't realize that.
it's always under tier one, so
Right.
you cannot choose. The employee can decide what they want to do after that point based on premium.
Correct.
We
It's
can't.
just, we pay, so here it was the state maintenance plan, Dean was the cheapest, or was the one they picked as tier one, we have no control over that. So then we pay 88% of that amount, which is the maximum share, which is $23.78.
Mhm.
And then whether you're a family or single, that number changes based on that. But that doesn't mean that was the lowest one, because Mercy Healthcare was $24.49.
And that was the tier one the prior year.
Right, so if
So-
you decide as an employee, you want to do Mercy Healthcare, you're actually gonna pay less in your deductible. We're still paying the maximum of
And the
$23.70.
premium is not deductible.
I'm sorry, did I say, I didn't mean that. Your portion of it.
Mhm.
So that's where you can say sometimes the city wins, sometimes the employee, it just makes a difference what you pick for your insurance. Because you can still pick anything you want, but we're locked into this number, period.
Seems crazy.
I know, right?
I'm gonna need somebody to explain to me how 88% of something and 12% of something is a variable between who pays an increase. I mean, if you get it,
Somebody's negotiating.
I'll make more calls, but nobody can figure out the rhyme or reason of what's considered the tier one.
irrelevant,
Okay.
if the premium cost is $1,000, math, 880 should come from the city, and 12 should come from the employee.
Correct.
So how is an increase in a premium only affect one side of that? I don't know how that math works. Someone's gonna have to explain to me how that math works.
I'd like to be in that room.
But, I mean, it's a split.
Period.
If there's an increase,
Right.
both sides should pay an increase, period.
And if it's a decrease, same scenario. I know, this is,
So someone's gonna have to explain that math to me.
and isn't that where you were going with this, that you ask this shit all the time? Sorry, I didn't mean to swear, but you ask these questions all the time, and she sits in these
The
treasurer's meetings.
state says it.
The state sets it, I try to get as much information as I can. The math is the math, how they determine it, Jefferson County is Jefferson County.
Right.
I don't, like I said, one year it had 3 tier ones and it took the average of the low. That's how they do it. I can't explain it to you any more than that.
Well, they took all three, divided it,
Yes,
and then that became the
Average.
average.
but this last year was only one tier one.
Right.
Who determines the
Period.
tier one? Their board, the state board. That's why they've already determined there'll be 11% increase this year. But I don't know where it's gonna, what tier one is going to, what we're gonna,
But that, in my mind, should always be
it's on the.
11% should be 88% of that 11% to the employer, 12% of that 11% to the employee.
That's not, yeah.
If they kept it the same, but they don't.
Mhm.
But it doesn't matter, if the premium goes up or down, the percentages are still the percentages. And I don't understand how they're doing the math. And no one's been able to explain it to me.
Have you honestly asked anybody at your work, has anybody there been able to?
I can maybe, I can check
Just
with.
curious if they have a cute little cheat sheet that they
They
can go,
don't,
this
they
is how
just,
this
they
is.
I
take
will-
bids and they take it on whatever tier ratings.
We are not in the state program.
No, but ETF, they have the state plan and we have the local municipality.
Rich, you call them and talk to them.
Yeah.
They'll talk to you.
Mhm.
I'm gonna need a phone number on that, cause this is just, I mean, okay,
So knowing that, that's one portion of it we're anticipating, because from the public relations, early budget negotiations, they're already kind of putting a projection out there. And I did see that as well. It was, like you said, it was around 11%. Whether that happens or not, we won't know until end of September. Was it last year?
Yeah.
which is unfortunate, cause it's so
Enrollment starts.
deep into our process.
It's deep, so we have to have contingencies and
Assume the worst.
assume the worst and where that's gonna come from.
And that's the only reason that I put that one projected.
That's on this one where it's the health
The other
insurance
one
opt-out.
projected for 26.
Where's that?
Should be in there.
All right, back further.
And again, it's just, I don't know where it's gonna fall. I based it on the state plan still being the tier
Mhm.
1, and that's all I could do.
Yep. So, as you can see, if that holds true and the rates don't change, I mean, it's still a little bit under $260, somewhere around there.
So, and I just took it off the
Yeah,
actual premium, so,
so that it, in the end of the day, it still adds up to something. So
yeah, I
then,
don't know,
we want to look at what the opt-out is, since most of us weren't here, except for Jenny. I was hoping Tim was gonna be here, but he's on vacation. To see if they can remember what the criteria was when they did that. Does any
I
of
don't
you
even know,
remember?
was Tim on council, what?
Yes,
Was
Tim,
it? Okay.
talked about it.
Okay.
He has
Tim
a
would-
very strong recollection of it, so.
What was the reasoning that they set it at 50? Because the
Well-
wording almost makes it seem like it was for 2018, and then they kind of alluded to maybe it's perpetual, but to me, I read it as it was only.
I didn't sit in on finance, so some of your discussions on the health insurance and opt-out, we're not always privy to, so we weren't
Right.
privy to that, so I really don't know.
Just got,
Okay,
The reason they did the
It's
opt-out was,
17.
definitely was to save money for the city to not have to pay out as much for.
Right.
More of encouraging people to look at if they had the
Yeah,
option
sure.
themselves.
right.
yeah, they got presented to us that it's just like, you gotta hear in a pack, you know, the first year you're at 45%, and then the second year you're at 50% of whatever
Right,
average was of.
And the reason behind that was is because they didn't want people in and out, in and out, in and out.
Well, right.
So the idea was to give them an incentive to stay in it once they were in it. That's why they thought the second year should get more. How they came up with those percentages, I have no idea.
yeah, that's
Right, there's no detail in that by
Right.
saying what's the 50%
And
of what.
why was it advantageous
Yeah,
to
but it
pick
doesn't
that
say
amount?
that. That's my point.
2018,
That's where
does
we're
that
going,
still
is it doesn't say that.
ring true now with the changes that we've seen? Don't know. But,
Yeah.
I can just tell you that the guy set it up was getting the opt-out.
exactly,
Yeah.
I understand that.
And I suppose he figured just split it, say we could put the employee and the employer.
yeah.
But then if this changes, do we follow that? Yeah.
So I don't know if there's anything, or what and these are things we're gonna have to talk probably later about, so people are aware that if we do look at that, it's probably not gonna be very pleasant or palatable if we look at changing that opt-out and capping it. We may have to
I
at
think-
some point, just because it's gonna insulate us with those ups and downs a little bit more.
I will tell you though, depending on what changes that you make in that, and obviously it's your decisions to do that, but there will be a a number of people, depending on the opt-out, will opt to go back into the insurance plan that will cost the city more.
Understandable.
So I'm just voicing that because I would be one of them, so. Depending on
You
that-
can judge all the time, I mean,
So, I mean, that's what things you have to look into, that's why I did those scenarios. May not be as high as 75%, depending on the changes that would be made, but it probably would be at least 50%.
Well, that's why we have to look at the
we have
deductibles.
to look
I
at the
did, I
deductibles.
did math on that, and if everything stays the same, people-wise, in the singles and the doubles and all that stuff, us saving, it's a win for everybody, because everybody's premiums go down. The city would put aside the deductible amount, whether it's 1,600 or 3,200, single family, and we're still coming out, we're coming out
I have
ahead.
to look at the math. of it.
Oh,
That
absolutely,
was-
yep,
yeah, I didn't
absolutely,
think
do the
that
math
was.
on that, because then everybody pays out less, and I think Jeannie made the reference, I don't always go to the doctor that much. So that means she's paying less, she doesn't have to use the $3,200 deductible, and the city saves money there too.
But that's gonna be based off staying in the state plan?
Yeah, that's still based on the same, yeah,
It is.
yeah, that's not
That's,
changing
that's what I'm asking.
Yeah. In the private sector, that's mostly what's happening. I saw it in my job, basically, there is increases, because we have Dean as well at McKay, so their premium for the whole company wide per person is going up, and we've been inching up on deductibles to try to balance that premium amount, and try to keep that not a big jump.
And who pays your deductible
Put it in HSA.
for McKay?
We have HSA, you can utilize it that way, but basically deductibles are out of the employee's pocket at that point. It's a cost sharing, just because it's gotten out of control, quite
Right.
frankly.
But I guess that was the argument for the employees of, you can go deductible and say you're gonna pay for it, but everybody knows 2-3 years down the road, it's probably gonna be the employees paying deductible.
Yeah,
Depends who's sitting there.
yeah.
Makes a
Depends
lot
on-
of
I get
But
that. I
just
just-
like to change what you wanna do with the opt-out, the same thing, 7 years
Yeah.
later, now we wanna change that, so those are one
Well,
of
I
the
don't
things.
know.
All I can
Don't say we're gonna change it, because that's not the way to look at it. We're just looking at options.
Mhm.
Investigating.
Yep, we're looking at options. Doesn't mean anything's gonna change, and I don't wanna get that feeling out there that
Right.
we're looking to make any drastic changes, but
Insurance is a huge deal.
it's a big part of the payroll too, and payroll's the biggest ticket on a budget side, so we may need to ask around and see if these numbers are kind of accurate on increasing the deductibles and what we can do around that to be creative, whether we fund some of the deductible amount as an HSA that way, instead of just saying, here it is, if you don't wanna take it, it's on your paycheck. Seems to be penalizing the people that are actually taking the insurance to me, but
Definitely check to make sure I did this right,
I will-
and just to make
I will.
darn sure this even
I
makes
did,
any
I
sense.
thought it was just a discussion on opt-out, so I didn't go as much into detail with this, because it said opt-out, so I
No, it was-
apologize, I
it was
just didn't get as much.
It was all the
It's
conversation
all
of
the
insurance
conversation.
Okay,
in
well,
general.
I misunderstood that, so,
Yep.
but I will definitely,
Yeah,
do
because I
that.
gotta make sure that I did that math right, my times the amount of people in each
Yeah,
category and
yeah.
all that good
No,
stuff.
that's fine,
I wanna imagine
I'm sure you're right, but I just,
the contact on the insurance side of things can probably help us out to realize what some of these options would be if we were gonna fund an HSA versus a lower opt-out percentage. I'm sure they are quite familiar with it and work with other municipalities that have different scenarios like that. I think those are the things we're gonna probably wanna see in the next couple of months.
and I can certainly reach out to our rep and see if
Yeah.
there's a time we can have a meeting on that, so that there's more clarity with that, information as well, so,
I appreciate it. We looked at different scenarios last year. Yeah, it didn't turn out, real great, but we're gonna continue to look at ways to save money, so.
Well, and the thing too that doesn't, I mean, it briefly says, and you can assume it means the 88%, it just doesn't go into details. It just says a voluntary health insurance benefit opt-out, and then it says Wisconsin retirement. But if you're opting out, are you opting out as a family, or are you opting out as a single person? Those numbers are different. Are they all singles?
We, like for this, is I had to prove that I had health insurance with my husband, which is a family plan, so that's where it fell into.
Or who made you do that? Or is that
We just, I don't know, it's written, but we have them bring in proof of insurance.
But if he's got the family plan and why would we be paying out a family deductible then, if you've already
If
got
we're a
that?
family, I'm not paying you're not paying the family premium, because if I was on the plan, you'd be paying family premium versus somebody that's single. I'm just saying that's how we do
Yeah.
it, so, I mean, that's the way they did it before.
Some have like spouse is like a +1, so you have almost like a single plan, but +1, so it's not a family. There's different ways they cut it. I'm not sure
And what-
with
and-
our insurance that they allow that, but. I
One of
know.
the villages or cities, I can't remember, that was on the committee with me, they require that their employees take the insurance. They don't have the option to go on their employees and opt out, they require their employees, I don't know how you
But
can
then
do
they're
that.
forcing you to pay for something you don't need.
They force the employees do not have an option, they have to take the insurance. I do not know why, that's what
makes
she
no
told
sense.
me, it doesn't, but I don't know. But yeah, their formulas, everything, like I said, the Marshall was the closest one to us, but.
Still, it's only 26% of the premium.
So, yeah, I'm sure Tim can share with you how, whatever that went, but that's the way it's been done since.
Like I said, back in
Yeah.
2018, it might have been very attractive at that point, but does the economics mean it works? Obviously, we would have probably seen more examples of it, 50% or something close to that in some of these other municipalities.
If they respond, yeah.
If
I
they
mean,
respond,
The
but,
ones I got, and then this was off the clerk's list, also because it intrigued a lot of people that when I was doing the survey, they weren't reaching out because they're
What are
like,
you doing?
oh, yeah, how are you doing it? How are you doing? So it was just one of those things that everybody, so maybe more will come in and all that.
Yep.
But seems to be kind of around the same centered amount.
yeah, and I mean, this is on the opt-out amount, but it'd be interesting to see how others structure things, like funding HSAs and that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
to try to.
The ones I
bridge the
did
gap.
have like verbal conversations with, probably 50% of them have some type of HSA or
Yeah,
whatever.
like a piggy
Some-
bank.
Yeah,
Baroque
So,
has
there's
all
different-
kinds of formulas.
Yeah.
so, and I wrote the population down for all of them, so, on my sheet, I
Sure.
didn't do it on that one, but.
Which is what is good, because you want to compare
Yeah,
most
so
of
I was
the
trying to
Whitewater is
compare, it's bigger.
out, but that's okay, but the rest of them, Hobart, I don't know what that is, Belleville's big.
Any,
Well, that's interesting.
Mhm.
any other thing that members here may want to have staff hone in on as far as this goes, before we move on? We're gonna discuss again, it's on council's agenda, so we'll rehash some of this going into that.
Where do these numbers come from?
That's right from the state, that's what they send me. That's every open enrollment, that's what we get.
So in 2024, we budget for that for
Yes.
2025.
So that's
So
during,
this year's
and
premium.
when I send out all the information to employees on what their options are and the premiums, that's what it's all based on.
Can I see that? Population.
Remember,
Oh,
in 26 is probably not gonna come out this fall.
no, it won't, yeah, I mean,
Never does.
everybody wants it sooner and then, you know, what they want, what they get from the state are two different
It's
things.
like our league insurance as well, that gets later
Yep.
every year as well.
I'm gonna try to push that up a little bit now that we've got a lot of that stuff under control with going through with the departments and stuff, so we should have little changes with that and could probably get things a lot quicker. So, we did a lot of work this year on the insurance.
Okay, anything else? All right, hearing none, we'll go to old business, fire department equipment maintenance contract. Believe last meeting, we were here and we looked through this maintenance contract, but we're unsure on where funding was gonna come from at that point. Whether, I think the conversation was whether the department had it in some of their, could budget some of this, whether the supporters that purchased this, some of this equipment originally, were gonna continue to support that, or something different.
Well, it would be something different. Again, I guess I want you guys' opinion on it, but initially it was supported by the donations of some of the equipment, and then the rest was the supporters. So the 3 to 5 year contract is up. That's why we brought this up again. Quite honestly, $14,000 a year is quite a bit. So basically, it's an insurance policy. If one of these break, we'd have to foot the bill to get it fixed. Currently, or under this service contract, it would be covered, parts, labor, travel, that would all be covered. And some of the batteries get replaced, which we just had to replace two cot batteries, at about $1,000 a piece. But if you look at the numbers, that's quite a few batteries. So, we could try to take it out of FAT money, but it's gonna take money out of other equipment and training supplies for what we use the FAT money for, so.
Are you getting more this year on that?
We are getting more, but not necessarily enough to cover that, and that's only for the cot, the power load, the Lucas, and the life pack, which is starting to get, we have to look at starting to think about replacing that at $60,000. So how much are we gonna put in? I think the life pack's contract per year was like $4 or $5 grand.
That was kind of one of my questions was, what's the life cycle of this equipment, and where are these pieces of equipment in that life cycle?
Right, that was my question too.
Various stages, the power loads, and the power loads is hard to know what the lifespan is because they're fairly new.
But what is
That's
power
what-
load? What does it do? What is it?
That's what puts the cot in the back of the ambulance hands-free. So it's basically a lift that takes
It's a
the
lift.
cot and puts
Okay.
it in.
Yeah, it's a lift, that's what I needed.
And then the cots are relatively new also, so you're looking at another 10 years on those.
Is that the stair, no, that's a different one.
Stair chair is something different, yeah.
So just looking at your descriptions, that's what I'm trying to understand. So the first one, it says life pack field repair, ProCare life pack, what is it?
Life pack is the monitors, it's things that tell us what your heart's doing, and then shocks. Those are the things that are starting to get to the point of, in the next 3 years, we'll probably end up having to replace, which is a cost of $60,000 currently right now for replacement costs. Then you go to, I can't remember what was next.
That's okay, the next one was a ProCare, it just says Lucas field repair.
So that's the thing that we put on people that are pulseless non-breathers to pump the chest. And those
Basically
are
the
new
CPR.
also, but they're,
Yeah.
they're going 15, 20 years. So they're probably 5 years into that 15, 20 years.
Okay, then you've got the power load lift
Yep,
and lifespan year of this one.
probably roughly 20 years, the same as it would be with the span of the ambulance.
And how old is this one, you think?
One would be 5 years and the next one will be brand new. Coming with the new ambulance.
Okay. And then you have the Power Pro Care, just says Pro Care SBC Power Pro.
Those are the cots, that's why there's two different ones, one's a little bit older than the other ones.
Okay, these are both cots.
Those are both cots. One's
And
probably
they're
got
also-
5 years.
I'm sorry,
Those are both power cots also, yes.
5 years, what are we saying, 5 years?
There are probably 5 years difference in between the two.
So one 5 years, one 10 years, what's, I don't know.
One's 5 years and one's probably at 10 years now.
And the life cycle of that, how long's that last?
Up to 20 years.
20 years?
Suppose a lot of that is frequency of how often you
Sure.
Frequency,
recycle it and
new technology, how long they're gonna hold on to parts, and they come up with new crap.
bearings and bushings and,
Yep, it's technology based also.
is this maintenance where they come and service the stuff?
Yeah,
Or
so we,
Or is this failure where they come and fix it?
both, it would cover both, so they would, part of that cost price would be service, annual service, which if we don't go with this, we would have to pay the annual service. I'm assuming, I don't know the numbers right now, but I'm assuming it's up to like $1,500 a year to come out and service all the monitors, the cots, and the Lucases.
And the last one's the stair chair.
And the last one's the stair chair.
And how old is that one?
That one's probably pushing 15 years.
Are we getting another one on the new one?
We were supposed to be, yeah, that one's a power chair that was for $13,000. I don't know where that fell through the cracks, but
So you don't, this is the only one we have?
we have two stair chairs that are manual. We don't have any power stair chairs, so this is just working on the manual one.
So this one here is a manual one on here?
Yep, there's no
That
electricity
was
or
the
power to
ones,
it.
it was in last year's budget. There
It
was
was.
a request for it in capital, because it was $27,000
For two of them.
for two of them.
Power chairs.
Yep.
Stair.
Yeah,
Yeah.
wanted to stay with
Power chair,
Stryker, I
chair.
get it, but you could get two of another competing brand,
Oh,
not
that's right,
Stryker,
not Stryker.
for the
right.
price of one Stryker. And
Yeah.
I got some cross-eyed looks when I looked at it, but
We played with them.
it's not a real lot used piece of equipment for the most part.
Yes and no, yeah.
Yes and no.
Along with the lower crews that we've got with going down to two, it makes quite a difference, but.
So I think one of the other things that we discussed last time we were discussing this was, is there a possibility, since this is a big line item, getting a contract, or if maintenance has already been taking care of these, funding, if there's repairs needed to get us through the end of the year and start with a new contract starting January 1st, that we can get into the next year's budget.
To
Because we had
take this
asked,
to next year's,
we had asked Matt to look into, since we're halfway through the year, to look into would the supporters pick up half the year this year? And then we would put it in the budget for the next 2 years. And that's what he was supposed to look at.
I don't think anything was ever brought up to the supporters just yet.
That's where we left it.
That's where we left it.
Okay. To cover the rest of this year?
Yeah, or however you guys can work out this year, and then we can put this in the budget for the next 2 years.
Right, because we didn't budget for this year,
Right.
so it'd be coming in as a new expense that hasn't been budgeted for. So what's the cost to get us through the end of this year, and how can we either share that cost or some way get us through there, get it in budget for a new contract going for the next
Well,
period?
kind of right now, I would believe it's just a roll of the dice, we pick it up in 26.
You have a guarantee on the price if it goes up.
Well, it's probably gonna go up, but
Yeah.
like everything else.
Is there a different level?
Because right now, the estimate is out of date.
Okay.
Yep.
And they probably honor, I assume, because it's not that far.
Yeah,
off,
they're-
But,
They stuck with this price for the last 3 or 4 months, and
yeah, I'm sure
But
they
they
would.
did say it'll probably go up if we go into 26.
Is there different levels of a service contract as far as coverages, or that you can weigh them out to see what the major amount of what you're looking to cover, and that, or this is it, that's
No,
going to be
this-
offered?
This is what they cover as far as like a service or a maintenance contract.
Okay,
The rest would be a service contract where they just come out and service it. If they find something wrong, then you're paying for labor and parts.
On-call kind of service.
And another comment, since we don't know it, I don't think. There's been other donations to the fire department, which is exactly what I would think you would use donations for. This would be something like that. Does it always go to the, it doesn't go always to the supporters, doesn't it go into a different account?
For,
Like the donations, like Holly just passed away, and I think a bunch of the city was
we haven't
getting,
seen that.
we don't know what
Yeah.
that number is. But I know there's been other donations that people put in. Is that a supporter question? Is that the
No.
same thing?
yeah, that would be a support question.
Okay, so it's the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the difference between the accounts. If it goes to the supporters are the group that controls the money.
Yeah.
If it goes into the segregated account
If it
at the
comes
city,
into,
then you decide how it gets spent.
yeah, if it comes into the Waterloo Fire and Rescue, it gets put into the account
Yeah,
in our budget, side off of it,
Yeah,
but,
and that's you controlling it,
yep.
so.
It was the members account, I'm not really sure what it's named right now.
That's, I think, still a conversation we have to have.
Yeah.
That's on our task
Still in
list.
there.
I just, yeah, it's just whatever goes into there, and I'll play for flowers for somebody, or I'll get a request, and then I'll write a check for
Yeah,
it, but it's a
I mean,
separate account.
donation, it should be like under donation, just a little bit
There
clearer
is
what the
one.
hell it is.
Yeah.
There's three different things, so it's really hard to
Oh, yeah,
know.
that's on
so-
our task list, so we'll
Yeah.
talk about that.
Okay, so with the exception of life packs and possibly the stair chairs, which aren't real costly, what's your gut feeling? If you roll the dice, has the maintenance been taking care of these under contract already for the year?
Already for this year,
Mhm.
with the exception of the batteries that we just paid for, yeah,
Okay,
you know, they came out and serviced them. Which is
so,
go through, check to make sure everything's good, they
Yeah.
hook it up to their testing devices, run it all up now, and they
right,
grease what needs to be greased and so on and so
And did we
forth.
get a bill for that then? Did we get billed for that?
They covered that under the 24 contract,
Okay,
so it was still due.
okay. That was the 24 contract, okay.
so something could happen, just like it could happen with a
Anything.
lawnmower
Sure.
or truck engine.
Yeah.
Let's not talk about one
I mean, they could go into
Just saying,
time.
so.
Yeah. But to pay $14,000
But
now.
then, I'd rather see it in next year's.
Well, do you look at a 3-year contract starting 26?
Yes,
Yes,
So then that begs the question, do you reformat this to start in 2026 and throw the dice on the 6 months left
The next
this year?
6 months, that's what I would do.
That would be the way I would lean to. I mean, coming this late in the year, it'd be nice to square it up at January 1st, start a new contract. If you could get us those numbers for budget deliberations, get this in
yep,
your budget proposal. Then we can figure out how to deal with it then.
Especially since we just paid $2,000 for a couple batteries.
right,
yeah.
right.
Right.
And the big thing is,
Most
good
of the
that you
others-
identify the years of service on some of the stuff that goes out. Some of this we may look at as included in some of our borrowing, because those are long-term projects as well, so.
And if something's gonna last 15 to 20 years and it's gonna cost us $60,000, $70,000, yeah.
Yeah, like I said, we're coming up on the light packs that need
Yeah.
to be replaced.
So maybe you look at this, give us some better dates and years, ages, you know, kind of span that out a little bit. And like you said, try and come up with a 3-year plan, or when you think end of life.
Yeah,
And put
I think
that
I think
there.
we're better off holding off until the budget time.
Well, good, I'm glad to hear that, because that's kind of what I was thinking.
Yep.
They can get us better numbers, and I'm still kind of on the fence whether paying $14,000 a year just for somebody to come and say, yep, it's okay, and then maybe
Right.
agree something. That's quite a bit of money.
It is. I didn't realize it
For an
was that
insurance
much.
policy, it's quite a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess the other thing is you could gamble on it, pay the bills for 2 or 3 years and
$14,000 is gonna be a pretty big bill.
see where the chips fall,
Yeah.
you know?
You do get free batteries, but you know, there's gonna have to take a lot of batteries to.
You have 14 batteries?
Huh? No.
Right, so
Not
even if they
all.
replaced every battery every year, you don't get to the 14,000.
Right,
Right.
it's just in case something happens, it's all covered.
Yep.
I get it, I get all of that, you know?
So I think the best bet right now, we'll hold off and bring it back up, at budget time and
Do
figure it
some
out
more
from there.
research on it and see
Yeah, you
what makes better
Yeah.
sense.
probably only have a couple months before you're gonna be submitting your budget
Oh,
too,
yeah.
so.
Right. And you're gonna look at capital again, and capital, I know, is down there has changed a lot. Every year it seems to be a moving target on some stuff, but
Yeah, I
I
don't
would
know
definitely
where,
include the life packs in.
I don't know where our monitors were in the replacement. It had to be coming up in the next few years.
I don't think I've ever seen.
I've never seen it.
Yeah,
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Hopefully, get
Be-
better eyes on it and get us some truthful numbers and we can
Right.
work at it.
probably be beneficial to put together a compiled equipment list and ages and anticipated life cycle of said equipment.
Yeah, because these are huge, these are big pieces.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alright.
And
Yeah.
then,
We do have
a lot of
some
those
there.
big ticket items dovetails into what we're doing with Ellers on how we're gonna pay for things going out even 10 years, so.
The smallest piece of equipment is that $14,000 stair chair, then the Lucases are 22,
Yep.
monitors are 60, the cots are upwards of 80, and the power load's another 120, so.
Do we have any of that as an itemized list on our insurance?
You guys
that
were
we
gonna
pay?
work on that though, right, or is that completely done?
That's all on insurance.
It is, okay, so we're good, all right. Just
So
wanna make
it's-
sure,
So if it's on insurance there, why do we need more insurance?
because that's only if.
I don't know what insurance would cover
It's
necessarily.
a accident.
That'd be if they
well,
crashed the truck
Yeah,
They
and the
just
thing
need to
got
know what was
destroyed.
Somebody stole it,
Replacement,
something, you know,
That,
whatever.
that may be a question for the insurance company, because,
It's not gonna cover maintenance or any.
no, not maintenance,
But if
but
something breaks.
if something breaks, if it
Unless it's,
If
unless
it
it's.
gets run over,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's how the accident
Yes,
happens.
it's how it is, yes.
okay.
But that should at least have some ages and date on it, so you're not reinventing the wheel if you look at that list.
I think it is on there, I just thought you were gonna do more like inventory, that's why I asked that question.
No, all those big pieces are on the inventory.
Okay,
Do we want to get a motion to defer this
To
to,
the budget.
or
We can take no
defer
action.
to
We can
26?
defer it. I'll make a motion, well, I'll make a motion to defer it to the 26 budget deliberations.
All right.
Yeah.
I'll second that.
Got a motion by Wired, second by Haslide to defer the maintenance contract till budget 26. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries. Job descriptions for park coordinator. Has everybody reviewed the additional,
Yes.
Yes.
the additional paragraph? Did anybody have any comments? Tim called me yesterday or the day before and said that he thought it was a good addition. That's all the comments he had other than that.
It seemed to cover his concern.
Okay, so that is on council, I believe, right?
Should be.
Again, so we'll have to take that up at council. We don't have to have a motion for
Sure you
that.
do,
We
because
do.
you have to.
We have to motion it
you
back
need
to the
send it
council.
to
Wire will move to recommend approval to council of the job description for the parks coordinator.
Haslide will second.
A motion from Wired, second by Haslide for the job description for the parks coordinator. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. Rolling task list, what can we do here? Anti-bullying policy is in the packet here. There was some question on the policy statement. on the harassment, whether we should reference, I think it's 8.13, which actually references the official procedures for investigating complaints. That would be the only addition, otherwise that's referenced, I think, in other parts of this section, so. Comments, anything else? Policy distribution was highlighted as well.
Any issues with it? Anybody else thinks?
It seems like a lot. And I don't know how this gets incorporated into the handbook,
It's a new section.
just a simple new section.
It's a new section with the Article 2 is actually in the policy right now, or the handbook right now. And that was just edited a little bit to include bullying and the wordage in that section that refers to it.
So this entire document, so is Article 2 employment, that's our handbook?
That's our handbook, Section 2. So they're sort of merged. Pretty much the unique content from both documents were put together, definitions, procedures, retaliation policies. Unified the structure a little bit, Article 2, and just added those subsections for bullying, recognizing conduct, supervisor responsibilities, external remedies, and policy distribution to incorporate elements from the bullying policy. Try to clean up redundancies and clarified that the supervisor is kind of responsible and which actually had specifically outlined to include the document requirement, emphasizing their roles in reporting and addressing prohibited conduct with some teeth in that portion as well, so.
So is the top harassment policy intended to completely replace the handbook? Like this is swapping, did you do a? is that what
No,
you
the
referred
handbook's
to?
gonna still be there, the policy's gonna be, it's included in there with the edits in Article 2.
Okay, all right. So this will remain a policy, got it.
That's how I intended it anyhow, if anybody has.
So it'll be added in here, policy distribution, so that's at the end? Is that what I stand?
I would imagine, yeah. Because policy, Section 2 and then jumps to Section 3 is more in the, I think, it's in a different type of wording for different type of things. Wish I had my handbook here, I almost left it at home. I was gonna just say that, but I apologize.
Yeah, I was just looking to eliminate any redundancies or weird overlaps where this is partly addressed.
That's why I vetted it through, so to take the redundancies and the wording out, so we didn't repeat stuff up here, and then
Down
next
here,
page,
yeah.
you're repeating the same thing.
Right, because
So
if you
that's-
gotta correct something, I'd rather correct one thing than
Yep.
two things.
So since you're adding this now, with your current employees, do they have to sign off on this, saying that they?
It would have to be supplied to them, yes.
And I think it needs to probably have a signature, I would recommend it since it's a new policy,
Yes.
so everybody complies with it.
Okay.
I
Typical
think that's a
reading.
good idea.
Reading signs.
Do we get signed off on the handbook now as their new hires?
I believe so, right, Jean?
I'm sorry?
The handbook, is Sarah having them signed?
As
But
new
we have it
ones,
when we give it to
Yeah,
them.
I thought so, but,
after they've read it, or as they're hand?
All we are saying is that they took it, it's up to them to read it, so.
Okay. All right.
So what do you see having done with this? Is there gonna be some verbiage into the handbook? Because we know we've got a lot of.
Section,
in the handbook.
section 2 will be replaced with this,
Mhm.
and the harassment policy will be added as a
So-
standalone addition.
So section 2, this is rewritten, not what
Yes.
is current, okay,
Yes.
this is rewritten.
Section
That's what I
2
thought.
is rewritten. And the
New
harassment policy is a new addition.
Got it.
That
To
wasn't
section
there
2.
before. Yeah, it goes along with that section.
In writing section 2.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because we have
I like that.
policies, we have some policies that aren't in the handbook, but we refer to them,
Sure,
so. is that a
but I
policy
think
change
this
or
is
anything?
different than
It should
like
be a
a
supplement.
a donation policy or
Yeah,
a,
yeah.
There's like harassment, the procedures for reporting.
So
I
add it.
added external
handbook,
remedies
yeah.
to the
Right.
state contacts in there, which wasn't there before,
Okay.
so.
right.
And how do we do the handbook now? That's just our Word doc, we're just the ones inserting it and changing it and doing all that, right?
If this gets
So it have to
approved,
have a
basically you
revision.
can say, these go out to all the employees as an insert or something to
Mm-hmm.
their existing handbook, and
Acknowledge that they received.
they have to acknowledge a receipt, I guess.
Still gotta go through that whole handbook.
Right,
Well, that's part of it,
yep,
Okay.
a
okay.
bunch of it.
We need to move on.
I'll move to recommend approval to council of the anti-bullying Article 2 changes to the employee handbook.
I will second that.
Motion by Wired, second by Haslide to forward the anti-bullying and Article 2 policy and the rewording of Article 2 to council for approval. Do you want to have reference on policy statement number 5? Do we need to report the reporting that's in the handbook already? So I don't know if we need to redo it and say for what the proper procedures are for reporting a complaint, but it's already in the handbook already.
Right.
We didn't change it.
That's already, and then if that hasn't been changed,
Okay.
and if it needs to, we'll address that with the full update to the handbook,
Okay,
in my opinion.
all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Looks like our meeting is with the fire chief probably won't happen, nor will we get into AI unless
Well-
there's something you have that for
Well,
the
and
future.
it's not anything to go over. In doing my research on this, very interesting, everybody said, oh, yeah, we need to get that policy, and if you get something going, please share it. And so, but there was one, and I did some research with it, and I think it's probably the best thing to start with is that they set up, a couple of them set up like a task committee to do that and set it up and formulate your own policy on the AI. The thing with that can fall under the open records and what the usage of it. So I think maybe during our department head meetings that we can maybe start something that we can bring back on some policies.
Right.
Who's asking for this? I know we've read different things, is this from the state?
The league is
The league.
recommending, but they don't have anything.
Samples,
But they
that's
have
what I'm
guidance.
getting at,
Yeah, so
Typical.
everybody's design, and
Yeah.
the US government, the stuff that I found there, that they're saying, recommend doing a task committee on putting this together, on the policies, how it's used, open records, all of those things. If it's a city-owned AI, you cannot use personal, those kind of things, because it's open for public record.
It's like the
So,
electronic
as you
device
all know,
use
probably all
policies.
the staff knows and department heads probably are aware is we're using Microsoft 365 now. It has a new feature called Copilot, which is AI. And if it's not locked down in specific ways, according on how it's used, outside factors could query AI to go through documents and say, give me all the social security numbers of all the employees in the organization. And that's the fear, I think, that a lot of this stuff is incorporating, so.
So that's the plan I'd like to set up, if everybody's all right with that, get a committee, task committee, with department heads, and then everybody will bring in that, and then we'll have
Yep.
something to bring back to you. It'll take a little while, but I think that's the best start.
Alrighty,
Sounds good.
all right. So fire chief, since we still keep running out of time,
Yeah, we're gonna have to defer you again.
we need just, especially with budget coming up, we really need to have a solid half an hour with chief to go through stuff. My preference, it's up to you.
Can be in the head of the next
There you go,
finance
make
meeting.
it first.
Make it number one, and we'll probably start budget probably in July, so
And we just won't put much on the,
we just won't, we'll try to be light on stuff and get through him.
Okay.
All right?
we usually are on someone.
Yeah, but, okay, so we, at the moment, are planning a July 3rd, July 3rd meeting, which isn't finance anyway, but that means council might be a smidge longer, but we're gonna do this in finance anyway, so probably at 6 again.
We'll see how it plays out. If we have to start earlier, we might start at 5:30.
I've got that option.
Okay, all right, sounds good. All right,
Um,
entertain a motion to adjourn here.
Joey's good too, or yeah, 17.
Yeah.
That's the important thing, getting cheap here.
Well, when the next finance
You're asking questions.
17?
meeting. In
The 17th at 5:30 or 6, or you're gonna let me know?
We'll let you know.
We're gonna
But
leave
can
that
you be
flexible.
here?
Or did you want,
17th.
you said the third that you,
Well, it's the third Thursday, it's our next
It
finance
won't be
meeting,
It's the 17th.
July 3rd is not a finance committee
July
meeting.
that was
seventeenth.
the last
July
time.
17th.
Yeah, I'll make it work one way or another so we can get it done.
Okay, so let us know if you have a conflict.
Yeah, if it's light, we can probably go at 6,
Yeah,
but if it's heavy, we'll just
yeah,
see about 5:30.
Yeah, hopefully it doesn't take more than a half hour for
right.
Takes as
Okay.
long as it needs to.
you. It does. Motion to adjourn?
I'll second.
I'll second that.
No. Which kind of insurance?
The health insurance garbage that we get every year.
I really hope she's not.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm not.
Oh,
okay.
I recall that garbage.
I was gonna say, I didn't do it.
I know, that's
It's so rich. That was a stupid question. you got me thinking, I have to ask a question. Yeah.
No, what'd you say? Timing's good. Actually, no, keep thinking.
Hang on.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Cummings here.
Charles here.
Griffin here.
We're here.
Alright, so we are missing Austin and Jim's vacation. Meeting minutes from June 5th. Are there any additions or corrections?
Cummings will make a motion to approve the meeting minutes from June 5th.
Your partner's not here to make the
I
second.
know.
Griffin will second it.
Motion by Cummings, second by Griffin to approve the meeting minutes of June 5th, 2025. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Citizen comment or input, and I know Kevin is here. Joan is a surprise, which is perfectly fine. So Kevin, I'll let you have the floor.
Oh, thank you. My name's Kevin Reichenbach. I'm currently, for lack of a better term, in charge of the Waterloo Masonic Lodge this year. We hit a milestone this year for 170 years. So we actually built in the village or the city. So we wanted to have something special. So this Sunday at 1 o'clock, we're having a get-together, a little bit of it's called recertification. Unfortunately, over the years, the lodge building had to be sold, so we're gonna meet at the
For
big
sale
hall.
again.
It is. Unfortunately, we don't have the wherewithal to repurchase it. It would be nice, but due to budget constraints and our, the amount of guys we have available, or members that are available, we just don't feel that that would be something that we wanna get back involved in, unfortunately. We are in the process of looking for something in the city that might suit our needs coming up after in the near future. But at this point, we haven't really found anything yet, so we'll continue to look.
Well, let us know what you're looking for,
Oh,
and Jean
okay.
and I can,
Okay,
see if
I'll-
there's something that we
yeah,
can help you with. It just depends
Yeah,
what it
I'd
is
love
you
to.
need.
I could maybe touch base with you after the 22nd, because right now, things are a little bit hectic for me.
Mhm.
We'll get back and hold you guys. We have a long and storied history with Waterloo. In the past, some of the highlights that we've had is, we've had a good working relationship with the police and fire department. We've donated some AEDs into the facility, into the city. We've done FSTs, they're called, and jump kits that we've done with the fire department and the police department. In the past, with the fire department, we helped set up the Lifeline program that was here. This is back in the 70s, before Lifeline was really a big thing. Waterloo was one of the first real pushes of that, and one of our members, I understand he was a doctor, he really promoted that and was a big push for that.
Garmin, probably.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
So we have a long history with the city, and at this point, we're not planning on going anywhere. So we're hoping, as an invitation to anyone, unfortunately, the mayor can't be there with us on Sunday, but if anybody would like to come and partake and see what we've got going on and where we're going for the future, you're more than welcome to. We're gonna be at the bingo hall from 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock. And we'll probably be there a little bit after. We have cake and cookies, and unfortunately, with the weather the way it's gonna be, probably just water. Because I think it's gonna be pretty, yeah, that's all I really got for you guys right now at this point. And I don't like to say it like this, but if you find yourself with nothing to do, please, come over and see what we got going on. We would love to have everyone come over, so. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm gonna have to leave because I have my meeting. to
Your
go
own
to
meeting,
next.
I know, that's
Thank
why I
you.
said I'll
Thanks
take
for
you
the
right
time.
away.
Thank you.
Thank you.
for coming.
Take care, guys.
Did you want to say anything? or
Well, I'm
anything?
Representative Joan Fitzgerald. I was out and about tonight. I saw you guys had a meeting, so I didn't plan anything. I just thought I'd stop by and see what was going on in Waterloo. My thought is that most of the cities and towns is to come back again, maybe in August after the budget passes. and kind of report what's been going on in the Capitol at that point. So I will contact you and let you know for sure sometime in August,
Then
probably.
we'll get you on the agenda, that way other people can know
Right,
about it, if they want
right.
to come in, that you've been.
That's the plan.
And Chris
So-
can get it in the paper.
Excellent, yeah.
Great, well, thank you for coming.
Thank you.
All right, meeting summaries from the last council, CDA was canceled. Finance, Tim, I'm used to saying that, I'll call you Charlie now.
It's all right.
Sorry, over
It's all
the tongue.
right. For the most part, everything that's we discussed is on the agenda further down. We did discuss formulating a working group to discuss AI in the workplace and possibly putting a policy together for that.
That'll be in the future, wonderful. All right, consent agenda items are in your packets. Parks isn't in it yet, that'll be coming. Cable just sent it today, so that'll be in the next one. But otherwise, everything is in there. If there are any questions, comments? I personally do have one. I think there was something on the utility, so the water tower is being discussed as a demo now?
Yes,
Okay. And you're gonna be doing something with public awareness on it?
well, I was gonna cover it when you came to that on the agenda for utilities. Did that-
Well, you can do it anytime now, because it's.
Yeah,
in the
it's,
consent.
it was discussed about getting public information out,
Okay.
about taking it down, when we would take it down when they're interested, for cost reasons, and that's about it.
Okay, okay. Thank you. Anybody else have any other questions or comments on the consent?
Cool, make a motion to accept the consent agenda items.
Cummings will second.
Motion by Charlie Cool, second by Cummings to approve the consent agenda items. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. All right, recommendations of boards, committees, and commissions, finance. I will call you Charlie throughout the entire sections here. You're on.
I will make a motion to accept the May 2025 financial statements with payroll at $144,080.38, general disbursements of $146,199.85, and the clerk treasurer's report on file at City Hall.
Cummings will second.
Motion by Charlie Cool, second by Cummings to approve the financial reports as stated. Roll call?
Cummings, yes.
Cool, yes.
Griffin, yes.
Weird, yes.
Hessler, yes.
Motion carried. Fire department equipment maintenance contract.
There's a number of items in your packet. You'll see that in regards to the EMS side of business with life pack defibrillators, the cots and the loaders that are associated with loading those in the back of the ambulance, and also a stair chair contract that is coming due sort of in the middle of the year, finance year here. So with that said, with talking with the fire chief, indicated that most of the maintenance has been done on those units for the year. We're going to forego renewing the contract because some of these numbers are quite annual, is for over $14,000 per year to maintain these as a preventive maintenance contract. We're going to forego that and look at that in budget 26 for a longer term contract. So.
And you'll add the ages and stuff too, because we might
Correct.
change things up a little bit too. Depends what we need.
So, I will make a motion to defer the maintenance contract on those items as specified from Stryker until, the 2026 budget cycle.
Wired will second.
Motion by Charlie Cool, second by Ware to defer the fire department equipment maintenance contract for the 2026 budget. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Job description.
Job description in the packet as well. We revised it from the original from last month, adding another paragraph in paragraph 2, better defining the supervisory responsibilities of that position. Staff and the department head had no other comments. so I will make a recommendation to accept the job description for the Parks Coordinator.
Cummings will second.
Motion by Charlie Poole, second by Cummings to approve the job description. Any questions? I have one comment, so now that we've approved both the DPW and the parks, you guys both have your lower job descriptions for the different levels. So now we can go through and verify those so that everything flows together correctly.
Okay,
So we'll just take a look at that, so you'll have some other ones to kind of look at, but
Yeah,
they're
if you
just.
give me copies of those, I'll take a look at them.
yeah, I can send them out to you. I'm gonna tell you they need some reworking on because some of them still have damn maintenance on it.
Oh yeah, there's all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, if you get to find what the new roles are, include it, we'll put something
You have
together.
different levels, DP 1, 2, 3, all that good stuff, so,
Yep.
yep, so that's to come then. All right, any other questions? It's not a roll call one. All in favor? Anything about what I was doing?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Charge of bullying and Article 2.
And lastly, in your packet, you'll see the harassment policy that is new. It's a new inclusion into our handbook. And with that inclusion, we had to revise section, or Article 2 of the employment to reflect additional verbiage referring to that policy, along with some additions on reporting for external remedies at the state level should it escalate. So I will make a motion to incorporate those into the handbook and notify all employees of said changes with confirmation that they've received them.
Cummings will second.
Motion by Charlie Cool, second by Cummings, for bullying in the Article 2 handbook. Any questions? We will be going through the handbook. We've just got sporadic things all over the place, so there's just more to come, so we're kind of piecemealing some of this. Stuff that we're actually missing versus stuff that just needs to get updated, so there'll be more. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. New business, Class A and B liquor license for those that are expiring on June 30th of 2026.
Expired.
The
You'll
new
go from
ones.
this one,
Correct.
from July till next year.
These are the next year.
These have all been looked at by the chief. He's approved these. There are two businesses that we currently have that are not in this packet, and that will most likely come up on July 17th if we receive the paperwork. MT's is not renewing, so it's two others. And we'll probably have to look at who to give a liquor license to. We have one, and there's two people vying for it, so that would be up on July 17th.
What do you mean?
Yeah, why would MT?
MT is not renewing.
That bar is not gonna be a bar?
It's changing to Mama's Saloon.
Okay,
We just got that paperwork.
Right.
Gotcha.
No,
Okay.
no longer
Okay.
it's Mama's Saloon.
I was like,
We just
wait,
got
what's
that
going
last
on?
Friday.
Okay.
And
They
so,
got good burgers.
and they will have to be closed until at least July 18th,
Okay,
because we didn't have their paperwork, so they will not renew on the 1st.
got it,
And the solarium.
got it.
These run in a specific date format, like the first of the month, or do they go from the meeting night?
This will start July 1st. This is for the new, this will be for the next
So the
year.
ones that are deferred will,
July 17th, because they have to go on the paper for two weeks before the meeting, and then we will do it the next available meeting, so that's why we're doing it on the 17th.
okay.
And they've been notified.
But then next year, will we have, because I thought we had these things that they were all at the same time, so we weren't getting them all.
We want to do them all at the same time, but I can't force them to be,
Well, I understand.
their paperwork.
So this will, if
So
they
this
come
is
in,
how it
it's-
works.
we'll have.
Unfortunately,
one. Okay,
we know the deadline, so.
sure, okay, not a problem.
And same with cigarette licenses, they're on here too. And you can see who has cigarette license, it's in the tobacco license on the end. All the same people as before, no issues. We have, and all these, there hasn't been any issues with these sales.
So we have two then on here, if you want to take them both at the same time, you're welcome to do that. A and B, that is.
Cummings will make a motion to approve the Class A and B beer liquor license applications and the cigarette license applications from 7/1/2025 to 6/30/2026.
Wired will second.
Motion by Cummings, second by Wire to approve both items A and B beer license, A and B beer license and cigarette license. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Annual mobile home. There are same form as
Yeah,
always.
it's all filled out and signed by them, received the money, so that's just, what we do every year.
It just always confused me why one of them's called Greeningham and the other one's called Will Park, just because they're in two different locations, but they're owned by the same people.
Yeah.
Okay,
Kind of like a subdivision.
there you go.
Cummings will make a motion to approve the annual mobile home park licenses for the license period 7/1/2025 to 6/30/2026.
Griffin will second.
Motion by Cummings, second by Griffin to approve the mobile home park licenses. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. 2026 budget discussion. Charlie, would you like to go into that?
In general, first of all, in general, we're starting our budget season. We'll be starting in July with parameters. And as we all know, I just want to point out that we kind of had some estimates from Ellers on future projections on how much our levy limit's going to go up. Obviously, we've seen little growth, little to zero growth in the city, which is going to impact on how much levy limits are gonna affect things such as insurance rates, how we pay for things, programming, and most importantly, payroll. So with that said, I'm not sure if you wanna add anything more in the general guidelines of the budget, but it's usually, some of the issue is a lot of times we can work through specific budgets for departments, but then we are waiting for information from the state on insurance and,
Not pointing any fingers, but.
no, but it gets more tardier in the season every year that it makes us difficult to finalize our budgets, because sometimes we don't get numbers till October and we have to publish by November 1st, so. The difficulties that surround that, just knowing that things are gonna be tight and we're gonna be looking at everything, which dovetails into part two, is we decided to look at our opt-out and insurance premiums that we're paying right now.
That just got some information on.
There's some additional information that came in the packet, so we're looking at different communities, and Lana did some background asking on some of the forums of similar peers in other communities on how they handle opt-out. And this is just one portion of the overall look at insurance, because we know from some of the information that's already come down from the state that we're looking at possibly an 11% increase for insurance going forward. So if everything stays the status quo, it's gonna go up per person, probably $250 or somewhere around there per user. We have, as you can see in some of the numbers here, we have a number of people that opt out. Right now, we're paying 50%, we're offering 50% of that premium back to the opt-out person, where, as an incentive, I guess, for opting out. And so we're looking at some of the percentage how that comes across in other communities. And quite frankly, this was put in place back in 2018. Not sure what the reasons, it was before my time was here. I don't know if you have anything that input or even remember back in 2018 when we went to that.
It was an option. People wanted a way to get their paycheck figured without doing it. And if we weren't paying their insurance, we might as well, that's a plus for us and a plus for them.
Right.
So we wanted to benefit them a little bit for doing that.
For opting out, so basically, if they opted out of the insurance, they got 50% of whatever that amount would be added to their paycheck. So, looking at a lot of fluctuation in that, depending on how the insurance rates come back every year, some of those 50% opt-outs also fluctuate way up because of the fluctuations in insurance. Doesn't reflect reality sometimes when you're trying to give raises at probably a lesser rate, and they could get an insurance upper, which will give them more money in their pocket. So I see in a lot of these other communities, they're capping it at a specific dollar amount or a percentage per month, or a specific dollar amount per pay period. There's all across the boards ways to do it, but none of them that have reported back to us this far is quite as lucrative as what we're giving. Maybe that's a good thing. But with that said, that's one thing that we can look at. We can also look at deductible amounts. So whether you up the deductible amounts, which I think there is a breakdown on some of that in the packet that we had out here, or handed out here, you can see that increasing deductibles, which happens a lot in the private sector, as far as making the employee contribute a little bit more towards health insurance, kind of evens things out. So, not sure if anybody has questions about how we're going about this or what the thoughts are, but we thought we would bring it to council to let them know that this is something that we're looking at and how that dovetails into overall cost, I guess, as far as that goes, so.
Can you, Charlie, can you give me like an average, how much an employee is spending per month if they do have insurance, like 2025?
Yes, that would be on your first page of this sheet that I just handed you guys.
Oh,
So this is the 2025 right now. So you look at Jefferson, and this is where the state is the
Oh, so
bouncing
it's-
ball. It's a bouncing ball.
Mhm.
So tier 1 is what they're paying. So
okay,
even though there's 3, tier 1 is what the state or somebody at the state chooses is the tier 1. And it can always change on who that is and the dollar amount.
okay,
But the maximum amount that is put in there is always 88%.
okay,
So the employee, though, still can choose a different plan,
Mhm.
but we will only pay whether it's the single share at $966
yep,
or the family share at $2378.
Yep.
And if they choose a different Dean or Mercy or whatever, then you can see theirs changes, and that's completely on them. So right now, the policy that we have on the opt-out just says to follow this, plan, the state plan. It doesn't say single, it doesn't say family, it just
Okay.
says 50%.
okay,
And this changes every single year, which is, like I said, a bouncing ball, and of all the ones that Lana looked at, we're the only ones that do it this way. Everybody else has just like a flat rate or a specific amount. And they're nice, but it's also something
And
to,
that-
as an employee, you can count on that dollar amount versus up and down, depending on what the tiers do.
okay, so that 966, that's,
That's what the city would pay on a
Right.
single plan.
okay,
And the family plan is the other one, and she did give us numbers on
Okay.
how many people are in each. We don't have too many families, it's a lot more singles.
okay,
Then the opt-out, the deductible portion of it, that was just something else we were looking at, because if you choose a deductible plan,
mhm,
everybody's rates go down, both the employee and employer. And if the numbers actually work out that way, we would be the ones putting in the deductible. So if your family is a 1,600, we would be putting that into the HSA, so you're not paying that.
you're not paying that.
You're not
it's-
paying that,
yeah.
but everybody gets a lower rate. So we're just trying to be creative, knowing that
Mhm.
this is gonna be another bouncing ball.
Do you know how many people opted out?
Yeah,
Yes.
that's
It's
11, right?
Yeah.
It's
11.
It's in the sheet
Yes,
in your,
current. Yes, current is 11 that opt out, and there's 12 that are
Opt in.
opting in,
Yeah.
so it's
So,
almost
okay.
50%.
yeah, so in this sheet that's in your packet, it has 11 family and 1 single are in the actual insurance. And then the opt-out is 9 family and 2 single.
Mhm.
And there's a breakdown also in the opt-out information that kind of shows you the annual amounts that correlate to that opt-out. And that's paid out to them. So, I think 2025 was $14,269.44.
Yep.
So, we're gonna be discussing that at finance and going forward, so, like I said, we want to present that out to full council so they're aware if they have any questions before we go into it. It can be a hot topic sometimes when it's discussing, because it affects, our workers, and maybe nothing changes at all, just wanna preface that, but we have to look at everything, knowing that budgets are gonna be tight this year again, as they always are.
Hopefully the state can come up with a new plan for the next 2-year cycle.
More revenue sharing would be
That'd be
great.
great. Aren't you glad you came to this meeting?
Oh, I 100% agree with you. That'd be great.
All right, anybody have any questions? So it was just open conversation, just kind of let people know we're kicking off the wonderful budget season again. All right, future agenda items and announcements. I do have one, and I think she's in that back room. We just found out today, we just got an email from Lana, sorry, not Lana, Lana's on, that's what I'm reading, from Laura. So we have a new cable station director, Jayden Sparks, who's in that back room every day.
Hi.
There you are.
Hi.
Hi. So she's been with us a while already, and are you still gonna be doing any of the video recordings?
All of it.
All of it, fantastic. And then processing it and sitting behind a computer?
Yep.
Wonderful. So you've all seen her before, she is now our new station director, so congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And let's see, then Saturday, we already know about the Masonic, having our little,
Sunday.
okay, we'll call it Sunday.
Where's the bingo hall?
The big, well,
Park.
In the park? I
oh
don't
yeah,
know.
it's in the park, correct.
They're doing the one at a church
I
or
don't think there's
something?
air conditioning in there.
No, gosh, no.
Yeah, if I can make it, I will, but I have family plans unfortunately. Then next Friday is the circus.
So
Don't
excited.
forget the circus. Hopefully we have good weather. Anything else going on?
Big city trucks is next Wednesday
Big City Trucks is,
Oh, yeah.
but where's it at?
at the library.
At the library?
Library.
Isn't Kiss the Cow tomorrow night?
Yep.
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 Who's,
I know.
who's in the lead?
I
Do you
have
know?
no idea. I've given them 0 pennies.
Are you,
Oh,
Chief?
Chad is?
I believe
Nice.
See you tomorrow night. Can't wait to see who's gonna kiss the cow. Riveting, if you're looking for some riveting entertainment, don't watch Kiss the Cow outside at the library, you know.
Doesn't hurt. I
Yeah.
maybe
It is
just
June,
go
Derek.
before.
Who is it that did the lipstick one time? They put chapstick on before they said it
That
out.
was-
Was it Otto?
Jeff Addison, that was the year I was in the
He
early.
took it very seriously. They have overhauled some of it. All right, anybody else got anything?
Make a motion to adjourn?
Coming to a second.
Motion by Charlie Cool, second by Charlie.